The imaginable calculus of egos, a swimming tragedy, if not checked, could devastatingly quench the smoldering jollification of a new hope in Nigerian ADC citadel. The egregious movement has the sparing efficiency of latter years in 2023, when such adhesive trap was set for the political gullibles, or rallied into the ocean of deceit and swallowed the line hook and sinker. Everybody agreed on a free and fair primary that wantonly went bisect with massive corruption. Rumors were rife about sharing of the Odu incredible sum of $30,000 or even above, but the surreal murmuring and abstract rumors had no palpable stand. Like its semblance, the rumor disappeared and went with the wind, though the darkness of the yesteryears pragmatically refused to clear. Such nebulous cobwebs still hung over the faces of the political aficionados that wasted 100 million naira for nomination paper. If anybody had whispered in their thick moronic ears that it was all a fantasy, they would blatantly abuse the person. And again, if a rational individual had pleaded with them to share the money to their kindreds, they would utterly renege against the veritable advice. Laws should be obeyed, orders maintained, and goodness provoked in our society. If a new Nigerian should emerge, the nettles called political parties in Nigeria are lawless dunces, distended with mediocres and inundated with cookie cronies who commercialize Machiavellian intrigue to deceive the citizens. They are pompous wizards, wretched of the earth, with magic ignorance and hot insults on credulity. The heinous hypocrisies of legal authority and the help of treasuries of the government won in their various seats of power. None of them could win more than his family votes if a free and fair election is carried out. A country led by the dangerous sanguine of bipolar idealists could only apply Darwin's survival of the fittest to exist. When a leader is contentious of small mercies and ignorant of infantile pity that affect his citizens, then he is a walking tragedy. A lot of the political gullibles that inadvertently got trapped in 2023 primaries are still licking their festered gangrenous wounds, which are supposed to be completely amputated in Nigeria. In Nigerian factor, intelligence and morality had no weight. The political class is built a quantum morass of animal behavior that bordered on greed. They are voracious for money, self-indulgent and untruthful. All that seek agendas and promises forgotten in the crucible of egotism and self-aggrandizement. As the edifice of the society, saddled with great buttresses of authority, politicians are meant to be role models, but instead they are vulnerable to sycophants who sing their venomous praises in public and social media. Law is defined as the power of the state to control the existing political organization that permits civilization to exist. It can also be twisted to serve a nefarious civilization such as Nigeria, where the rich can escape the law. The political class empirically disobey the law. Their points of pride ruin their lives. Greed, envy, and self-delusion took them down paths that led to nothingness. One of the great mysteries of mankind was how people acted against their own self-interest. Health facilities are grossly neglected in detriment of the poor, but the rich also die decent deaths when in need of health. Public prognosis of the fabulous ADC primary already ascribe it to the highest bidder. And the ADC, who is the highest bidder? A rhetoric question that requires precedents to be answered. The worrying rabbity people described as delegates are only there for what they will put inside their corrupt stomachs. They lack the social behavior of responsible people and the civilized feeling of patriotism for their country. As idiotic mockers, they render utter disservice to the society. The inveterate bribery code always attract the delegates to the primaries. It is absolutely inviolable, and money must be shared to establish a political primary in Nigeria. The politicos of Abuja give bribes to be approved delegates in order to recoup through the candidates. When such monetary powers are liberated, it becomes an opening for tragedy, because the honest ones could not afford such bribery. A noxious politician had quoted that primaries are not for boys, but men. From where did the men steal all the money they used for primary? From the same society floundering with deprivation, retrogression, and impunity in all ramifications. The moral deadness that could drive a politician to see appointment as a precious opportunity to loot his country blind has profoundly taken root in Nigeria. The kleptomaniac delegates could manipulate their ways unchecked because our political parties lack regulators. They are mentally deprived and distrustful. Politics is too seldom about goodness. The paid cross-currents of eulogies, competitive debates, and defamation of characters are watched in social media, a prognosis of working tragedy. The political atmosphere is already poisonous, tense, and very hot. Here, 2027 still hung on unknown surreal elevation. None of these political actors could predict the future. People could die and others trapped in unforeseen circumstances. ADC have professed to prioritize consensus in selection of its presidential candidates, but will conduct competitive primaries if aspirants fail to agree. It therefore becomes a glittering fragment that could never become a whole. The vestigial prejudice of competitors absolutely disregarded. If they decide to vote for each other, the result will be one vote each, and consequently there will be no winner. Everyone among the voters desired to be president. The one that sinned with objectivity lacked the financial background to achieve the primary, though assumed articulate, truthful, and genuinely concerned with the problems of the country. He will certainly disappear in the heated crucible of a primary contaminated with outrageous hypocrites. There is sputtering obsolency in consensus selection, which bordered on ethnic, religious, and nepotic influences. These are long overdue maladies that have kept the country in jeopardy. The clannish mentality of the consensus could not allow a credible candidate to emerge. It therefore becomes a doubting task, but by no means impossible. The years of sitting resentments among the ethnic groups could still give victory to the infernal crooks that rule the country. The cups of economic turnaround could only be achieved if ethnic sentiments are held in check. Most media political summations are considered apocalyptic rather than apocryphal. Some of these writers lack the voting cards to be realistic in their rhetorics. The devastating hunger, unemployment, and multidimensional poverty are ticking time bombs. Any rational human being could hear the distant rumble of thunder. Hard work has become an elusive shadow, and only those with contact could survive. Nigeria is nervous and is closing on her. Most of the inhuman policies of the government are struggling and unprepossessing. Instead of lifting the poverty inherent in the society, they are stolidly tightening the swallow belt and stifling the citizens to death. Circumspectively, these vestigious policies could overturn if ego and selfish attitude are eschewed by leaders of ADC. The precious time is now, and the new ADC could effect a new Nigeria. All citizens of Nigeria share the common origin, be it Christian or Muslim. We also share common problems and a common ultimate fate called death. But the problems we share are greater than the problems that divide us into fragments, and that what divides us is of our own making. The exigent problems of ethnicism, favoritism, nepotism, religious bigotry, and other canker ones of decayance are minute when compared with multidimensional poverty, unemployment, impoverishment, hopelessness, and excruciating hunger. Our society has witnessed long years of social breakdown, familial breakdown, despondency, and ethnic discrimination. These are forbidding hindrances and maximum encumbrances in our developmental trade. All politicians are the same in Nigeria context. They lack specific ideology that bifurcates political parties from each other. They emerge from the same cookie cutter. They are all in it for what they can get out of it, and only use the catastrophic tools of division to gain relevance. The ones we regard as populists only make use of favorable data to lure us to their sides. Otherwise, prefer one defining difference between PDP and APC. Evil has its simplicities, and these are daunting to despair. Likewise, there are certain dangerous deviousness of good when it is compared with evil. The futile imaginations of our political leaders and their dubious megalomaniac attributes call for desperate change in our voting attitude. The employment of power to further the functioning of the society should be our main focus. This time around, there must be a scrupulous attack in our election of leaders. While all other ramifications of human endeavor had made a widely political and sociological discipline in Nigeria has remained stationary, the politics of violence, an obsolete phenomenon in the world today, still lingers maximally in Nigeria today. Kidnapping, terrorism, wanton assassination, and distortion of result sheets are welcome stratagems in Nigerian politics. Nigeria is the colossus to which other African countries owe their existence before. But today, the giant of Africa is crawling on amputated legs. Abject squalor, transient existence, and hunger have the power to change docile people. True leaders who believed and have practicalized egalitarian way of life, the country could be reverted on a rightful track. We must eschew anachronistic leaders who use their offices as bedrooms, the same dunces that strategize on ethnic gullibility to deceive and divide the country. They are the major enemies of our society. The bucolic system of politics have rendered the country stagnant for several years and will continue to hold the country in ransom if not checked. The absolute contumacy and the treacheries of the judiciary still remain a nettle in the flesh of existentialism in the society. The impunity of the decayed judges must be thoroughly checked if the country could be revised in its obliteration. Nigerians are on a deserted spaceship, careering mindlessly among the stars. Our lives are like runaway train over which we have absolutely no control. Every day we receive fresh waves of shock, either from the north or south. There is an exigency in the removal of these sadomasochists that claim to be leaders. What we have now are rhinestone politicians with nefarious intentions to struggle the country. The days of statesmen are far gone. There is a courtier, or in Nigeria's land, cabal, that refuse to give the country a fresh breath. You must desist from encouraging them. Admiring a person who loses his country blind and they reach other countries with the gain by way of numbered accounts and purchase of properties, then bribe the judiciary to protect his thievery is worse than ignorance. It is total evil. Some will acknowledge my script as an opprobrium, but it is the reality on the ground. Nigeria has its own distinctive rhythm, life pulse that springs on the docile, peaceful people and the land. We call it hospitality. We could rekindle the enthusiasm to live once again if we do the right thing in 2027. It is in the hands of citizens to make Nigeria a symbol of social justice and democratic freedom. A favorable permutation could only be achieved if ADC apply little decorum in their existence. If they really aspire for a new Nigerian, there must be sacrifices and limitation of point of pride to enable such feat. The psychosis that rule Nigeria are suffering from loss of contact with reality. All the indices pointed at an inflation that had gone haywire, but they still tell you that inflation is coming down without a visit to the market. The core of Nigerian sadness is untruthfulness of the leaders. The use of undisciplined rabbles in political inaugurations and political assemblies should also be checked. Devil is a subtle operator who takes many seductive forms to obliterate positive accomplishment. We must stand up and resist the devil in all his ramifications.